Hey everyone, Brooke here, and I'm back with a video update for version 0.66.0 of Terminus. As always, you can dive into the release notes, go into the details whenever you have time, but for the purposes of this video, I just want to highlight some of the more visual aspects of this release. And the first thing I want to start with is the dashboard, and you'll notice that there is a feedback section here at the bottom. And it has links to the survey. This used to be up top, but it's down below. I've talked about this in previous videos, so I won't dive into it again, but you can definitely click on that to give feedback if you want. But the new link that's here is the server link, in case you'd like to get Terminus packaged in a nice case, running on a Raspberry Pi, so you can just plug it into your network, plug it in your device, and have them talking to each other. If you're really interested in that, you can always sign up for a pre-order here, and you can also provide any suggestions that you might have. But just know that that's here if you need it. It's all in the feedback section here at the bottom of the dashboard. So moving on from there, I want to talk about some nice UI enhancements. They're subtle, but I wanted to highlight them just in case they're of interest. The first off is that in this release, as you hover over the icons, you'll see that you'll get nice tooltips that show up. And this gives you a visual indication of what it is that you're about to click on and what action are you going to take. So if these icons didn't make sense before, now they make a little bit more sense because the tooltip is there to let you know what it is that you're about to do. These tooltips, by the way, are all over the site now. So you'll have it when you're clearing your search, when you're doing a search, when you're creating a new record. If you're down in the footer, as you click on these, you'll be able to see the icons, the tooltips, so you know what it is that you're about to click on. So they're all there as well. The other thing, in addition to tooltips, is also the main menu here is hiding and showing dynamically. You might have noticed this as I was demoing, but if I scroll down, you'll see that the main menu goes away. And if I scroll back up, it nicely animates and pulls back down again. And this is a sticky menu now, so it's always above the records. So as you go down and then you go back up, it shows the hides accordingly. And the last thing I want to show with the main menu is that as I go through and I browse around the site, you'll get a nice active indicator to show you what page you're on. So when you click on screens here, you'll see that you're on the screens page, and it's just nice visual indication of where you're at within the site. This, by the way, comes with a small caveat, which is make sure that you're using the latest version of Chrome especially. Also, if you're using Firefox or Safari, you'll have some of these capabilities, but to a slightly lesser degree, just because they need time to catch up to the modern CSS and HTML that's being used. And this is basically a progressive enhancement. So as those browsers catch up in capabilities, you'll start to see more of what I'm demoing here be available in your favorite browser. But if you straight up just want to be like, yeah, I want to use this right away, you can use the latest version of Chrome and you'll see all these enhancements. So just be aware of that if you're on a different browser or an older browser. Okay, so moving on from there, the other thing I want to talk about is with devices. And I'm going to use one of my virtual devices to demonstrate this. It's not connected to any hardware. It's just something I'm playing around with in Terminus. But you'll want to make sure that you fill in the API key for your device. This used to be taken away, but now it's brought back in because it actually fixes a long-standing bug with our firmware. And our firmware code isn't totally fixed just yet. This is actually more of a fix in Terminus, but it actually does some really nice things. One is it reduces the amount of API requests made to the server and reduces the drain on the battery of your device. And then also it improves the authentication, because once you put in an API key here, the device now will identify itself with Terminus and then use that to authenticate with Terminus. So I can show you my key because it's not connected to anything. It's just all local. And just make sure that when you fill in the API key, make sure that it's about 30 characters or more, just alphanumeric, nothing too special, but just a nice strong API key. Fill it in, and then you'll be able to use that to authenticate your device with Terminus. Now, before you do that, there are kind of 3 steps that you want to go through in order to handle this upgrade. And I do apologize that there's just a little bit of manual work with this release. It's just kind of a one-time cost. But what you want to do is you want to either disconnect Terminus from the network, do the upgrade, disconnect it, and then fill in the API key for all your devices. Make sure it's just a unique random generated key for all your devices. You can also turn off your devices before you do this. You could disconnect them from the network, but just make sure you upgrade Terminus, fill in the API key for all your devices, then either reconnect Terminus to your network or turn your devices on or reconnect them to your network. And then when they next connect to Terminus, they'll pick up this new API key, they'll cache it locally, and then they'll be able to authenticate with Terminus. Now, if for some reason that doesn't work and you find that your device can't connect to Terminus, it might be because it has cached an invalid API key. And so the easiest way to fix that is just take your device, click on the back here on the button, and hold that for about 15 seconds to actually clear the cache. And then you can you'll be forced to fill in your network credentials and reconnect back to Terminus. But once it does that, it'll pick up your new API key, it'll store it on the device, and then it'll be able to connect to Terminus, and you'll be good to go. So just be aware of that. It's a small caveat. Hopefully, if you do the upgrade and disconnect your devices and then reconnect your devices, you shouldn't actually have to reset your devices. But if that doesn't work, just make sure that you can always reset your devices if you have to, and that'll make it so that they can authenticate with Terminus. Okay, so that's the API key. The other thing that I wanted to show here is with your devices, in this release, you'll also be able to see these wonderful log levels now. And you'll notice in Terminus that they're color-coded. Now, this was actually possible in the previous version. I didn't do a video on this because it actually requires a newer version of Terminus, like I'm demoing here, and then also make sure that your devices are running on the latest version of our firmware. 1.8.10 is what you need. And if you have both the latest version of Terminus, the latest version of our firmware, when you go to your devices and you're wondering like, why am I having issues? Why am I having errors? You'll get these nice log levels, so you'll know exactly what the severity of the log level that's coming in is. Now, if you're running on older versions of the firmware or older versions of Terminus, you'll still get the log level. Well, either you'll not get a log level and it'll just be a generic log, or you'll get logs that show up as black any's, just because Terminus is like, well, I don't know what log level this is, so I'll just log it as any, and you'll see those show up. But if you have the latest version, you'll be able to see the log levels in their full color-coded glory. So anyway, just FYI for that, in this release, the log levels are there if you need them. So the last thing I want to wrap up with is extensions in this release. And this is actually something that came in from the community. It was a really good idea, actually sort of a bug/feature, which is being able to manage your exchanges a little bit better, especially when they fail. So I want to show an example of this. So let's say, in this case, you can see that my exchange is a success. It made the API request, it got the data back, and it's able to use that data, render it through my Liquid template, and then render a screen on my device. So that's the happy path. But sometimes you might be in here and you made a mistake, or maybe this API is flaky and it went down. And so I'm going to simulate here a typo, but we could assume that maybe the server went down or something else. When I save this and I go back in and I edit, we'll see that it's a failure now. But the data is still here. Now, this is the change in this version. Previously, Terminus would just wipe this data out, which seemed like a good idea at the time, but it would wipe it out, which means that your display on your device would be like a blank screen, which wasn't a great experience. So now what Terminus does is, even though there are errors here, it'll keep the data so that you'll still render the display on your device, but it'll be a stale image. But at least you can come in and actually fix the errors and not have a blank image. So notice that we have this last API request is stale at this point. And we can see that the errors are here. Actually, if I scroll down, we can see that we're getting a 404, so not found, which is a good indicator to be like, well, okay, what's going on here? Did I do something wrong? And sure enough, I have this typo in my URL. So if I go back up here and I fix it and I save this, I come back in and edit, we'll see that it's a success at this point. This is all cleared up. The data is new in this case. Notice that it was Dolly was the ID last time, and this time it's Dogan. So you'll see that here. So the data is new, it's fresh. And then also the errors went away because there is no errors with this last request. So we've got a healthy request, we've got new data, and then that'll render on the device. So just FYI, a little bit of an improvement there, so that if you see stale images, at least you won't get a blank image, you'll just get a stale image. And then if you have any errors, you can see them here in your exchanges and then fix them when you have time. So that's it for this release, kind of in a nutshell. Hope you like the changes, and I'll see you in the next video update.